Welcome to episode 113 of Habs Unfiltered. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvey. I'm joined now by my co-host, Treg Wilson.
Hey, everybody.
And Matt, I'm wearing a onesie Smith.
This is official pandemic wear.
Like, is there any other reason to wear anything other than a Habs onesie?
I think it looks perfect. It's very, very comfortable and super
It
warm.
only looks perfect because you're wearing it, Matt.
Yeah, shout out to Hockey Saki.
You look great. You look great.
Thanks. It just helps me glow.
It does. So as we record, today is Tuesday the 26th, and it is Wayne Gretzky's birthday. So happy 60th to the great one.
Happy. Shout out to Wayne Gretzky, huge box lacrosse player when he was a kid. Just throwing that out there.
You're welcome on the show anytime if you're listening.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Just bring some Gretzky 99 whiskey and you're set.
Done.
So not much has happened since our last episode. I mean, been a quiet, uneventful, couple of days. Nothing happened. Hockey world's quiet.
Yeah, pretty much. The Calgary Series just kind of was just like, yeah, let's play hockey.
Eh.
Yeah, no hard feelings,
Except 3 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to kick this show off is Edmondson and his actions in rectifying where the league royally screwed up. So for those who aren't following our very broken chain of logic, Myers made a predatory blindside hit on Armia. The league and was given a 5-minute major, and the remaining game misconduct. The league decided, he didn't really hit him in the head, despite what the refs saw in the replay. So, no supplemental discipline. We know it happened at the end of a game when they were losing badly, and whatever. So, because of this, because of the language in the rule where they couldn't suspend him for the predatory hit because it didn't, according to them, make initial contact with the head, he was left scot-free. So we all know what the unwritten code in the NHL is. If you're going to do something like this, you're going to have to answer the bell. Someone's going to step up. And I know there's a lot of people that hate fighting, a ton. But if you want fighting out of the game, you got to start with this shit. You got to get this stuff out. Because the players, when the league fails them, like they did here, will step up and police themselves. And that's what Edmondson did, calling Myers out at the warm-up, asking to have a go. He agreed, and 3 minutes into the game, they fought. So, Matt, what are your thoughts?
I think he did what he had to do. He didn't make it public. He didn't say anything during the press conferences or anything, and the team was actually very professional about it. Claude Julien said that they'll take care of it the way they see fit, and they did. It was a clean fight. There was no slash hit from behind, no bullshit. It was just two big guys slugging it out, and after that, the rest of the game was able to continue, and there wasn't any real bullshit afterwards either. So I think that for now we've seen the last of this. They do play Vancouver a couple times coming up, so we'll see if there's any remnants of it that's going to come over. But overall, Canadians had a good game, and hats off to Evanston for stepping up for Armia, and he even got an empty netter, so it was kind of like the cherry on top. And Myers had a fucking terrible game, so that kind of made us all pretty happy. But you know what? I think part of that was just the spotlight that he knew was going to be on him, and I just think that it led to a really terrible game out of him, and the Canadians came out on top. But good on Evanston for doing that. A lot of people thought that, Corey Perry was going to get in the lineup and fight Myers. It fucking wasn't. We know that wasn't going to happen. He's an agitator. He's not a fighter.
But he can fight.
He can, but he's an agitator. He's not going to go up against Tyler Myers. It's not going to happen. I was thinking it was going to either be Edmonston or Sherrod.
if Perry were going to do anything, it'd be to spear him in the nuts or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Treg, what do you think?
I thought it was the best thing to do. The biggest thing for a situation like that is to get it over early within the game. I know I had a discussion with someone on Twitter and they said it didn't help anything. It was pointless. Um, okay, sure. Yeah, you can, that's fair evaluation if you're not into fighting or think it's dumb. But I do believe if that doesn't happen, then you see a chippier, uh, I don't think the Canadians are as on their game as they would be if it was over and done with. Uh, there was highlights of Edmondson before during the warm up that he went over and said something to Myers, and Myers nodded his head. So they train with each other off in the off season, so they know each other quite well. And I think it was just a matter. And you know what? Props to Tyler Myers for standing up for, you know what I mean, taking the fight. Like he could have easily not, uh, but you could tell by the little pregame video. Edmondson said something and he nodded his head, and it was one of those right off the face off. They both just dropped the gloves, and a good thing Edmondson won the fight, because I mean Myers just basically held on, because I mean it would look pretty bad if he lost. But um, so yeah, I think Edmondson did the right thing. Uh, I'm not one of those pro fighting against fighting. I don't believe you should fight when you don't need to. Um, I think we can go back to a game against Calgary, actually, when Nicholas Delorier got into a fight at a situation, and it really, this is what, 2-3 years ago, and it really sparked the Calgary Flames, and they came back and won the game. But I'm not against fights either. If a fight happens, great. I like to watch them. I find most of them are just wrestling matches now anyway. You don't get the Donnie Brooks like you had with Bob Probert and Ty Domi. But it was over and done with, and the rest of the game went on as normal. The Canadians played their game, and that was that. It was just ended up being a regular hockey game after that.
See, I'm a proponent of keeping spontaneous fighting in the game, because tempers flare, people are competing, then a fight breaks out. It's completely unplanned. It's spontaneous. I have no problem with that. I don't like staged fights, but in this case, this is essentially a staged fight. In this case, that is a teammate stepping up for another teammate because the league failed the players. So retribution must be taken. And like you mentioned, Treg, had Edmondson not done this, the Canadians as a team would have probably been distracted and spent most of the night chasing Myers down, giving him dirty shots, because if he turned down a fight, well, then they would just go after him in other ways. So maybe Vancouver ends up with a win. Maybe Myers ends up injured in some way, and it just escalates because the league failed. The rules as written aren't sufficient to get rid of these predatory hits. I despise these blindside hits. There's nothing. I love a good solid hit. You come chest to chest. You can see the guy coming. That is great hockey. But what he did, Armia his head was turned. He wasn't even looking at the play. He came in from a blind side. I don't like those hits.
Eric Engels said it pretty good in one of his articles about it.
Yeah.
And he basically said the NHLPA is black and white. It reads the rules as the rules are written. And in the rules and as they are written right now, there's nothing against blindside hits.
No.
They determined that the initial contact was the chest, and that the head movement was just a matter of that's debatable. I'm not going to go there. I've watched the play many times. I can see it from both angles. Personally, I think I'm on the side of it was a dirty hit. But the rule books don't have unless it's from behind or a hit to the head. If it's neither one of those, by NHL standards, it's not a dirty hit. Whether the guy had his head down and was tying his skate or whatever he was doing, doesn't matter.
It's a poorly written rule, the one that they used.
Correct.
There's Rule 38 that they could have followed, and it's still poorly written, even though all the press from 2010 and on, remember when all the big arguments about blindside hits, the NHL said, hey, we're going to fix this. It's solved. Here's a new rule, the blindside hit rule. Well, clearly what they did was insufficient. And that leaves the players to police themselves. So if you don't like fighting, you need to step up and tell the league, hey, fix your damn rules, because if you don't, players are going to fight.
So for me,
There's nothing in the rule.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Matt. I was
So
just going to
for,
say, there's nothing in the rule book that says anything about blind sides.
No, and that's my point.
If you read the rule book. Yeah.
But they made a big
There's
PR.
nothing in. Correct.
It was all PR.
And so basically, Eric Engels said it perfect. He just said, so you can get mad at the NHLPA all you want. You get mad at Julian for what he said. You can get mad at Edmondson for starting the fight. But in the end, what you really got to get mad at is the NHL itself and say this rule has to change.
Yeah.
Or there has to be a rule in there that states blindsided hits or,
Yeah, so everything I
that
just said there.
So what I was going to add on really quick about the fighting is I think that if somebody didn't step up to fight him and the game just would have went on, I think we would have heard it more in the media than anything. That the Canadians went out, they made all these additions, they got bigger, they got tougher, they got this, they got that. Yet when it comes down to it, they didn't take care of business. So they didn't go seeking retribution or anything, and they just let it happen. And that could have been a negative effect on the team, as other teams could look at them and be like, okay, we can take liberty with this team because they're not going to do anything to me.
Yeah, they would have gotten.
I'm just going to jump on Carey Price's head. No one's going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Throw a knee into the back of his head.
Yeah.
Ka-chuck him. Yeah, no, they would have gotten Brendan Kelly'd for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it Brendan Kelly'd anyway, but
yeah. But no Kachuk.
I don't know. I think you're right, Matt. I think if it wasn't Edmondson, I think Sherratt probably would have stepped up and done something. Perry wouldn't have, Weber wouldn't have. I know people love Weber. He's a man, but Weber's not really a fighter. He's not really he doesn't go.
No, I think he would have stepped up. In cases like this, because of he is a leader. He's the captain of the team. He would have to do this. He knows what he would have to do. If Edmondson didn't do it, he would end up having to do it.
I just think if he was going to do it, it would be in a situation like a spontaneous, like, you know what I mean? Him and Myers would have met in a corner somewhere. And like, I don't think he would have staged it, is pretty much what I'm saying. I think Sherratt probably, but you could have had guys like Perry, Anderson or someone like that playing dirty against Myers and doing something. And we could have been taking stupid penalties all night long just because they're trying to slash. Yeah. They're trying to slash the shit out of, Tyler Myers and all that kind of stuff. And, Perry, as he's standing behind the referee, would like jab his fucking stick into his eye or something and pretend nothing happened. But I'm glad it was done. And whether you like it or not, it's part of the game. It's if the NHL doesn't start policing these type of things, the players will. And they did. Game went on as normal. I thought it happened at the perfect time. It was the perfect way to do it, and the game ended up being a great game, actually. So
yeah, they ended up with a win. That's the most important thing. Corey Perry looked really good in his debut. For all the Corey Perry haters out there, sorry, he had a good game. You look at it, he had 4 shots. He scored, played over 15 minutes, and he shined, in my opinion. And Gallagher scored a big goal. Drouin looked good. It's, we didn't need to see Toffoli score a hat trick for them to win the game, right? So it was nice to see.
Although he could have had 2 goals. And
yeah, he could have for sure, yeah.
So,
but according to Andrew Berkshire, Corey Perry's goal was the ugliest goal he's ever seen in his life.
They all count in the end of the day.
Yeah,
Berkshire's never scored a goal, so I don't even know how he would know.
Well,
who cares? Who cares what the goal looks like? As long as
they all count at the end of the day. So
Perry even said he was trying to pass it to Kotkaniemi.
Yeah, 100%.
So I went and checked on the stats list, and I tried to find the list with the stat called pretty goals, but I only found the one that said goals.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
exactly. I think Ray Ferraro says in NHL 21 his first goal was off his ass, and he still thinks it's still a goal.
Yeah, 100%. You don't have every goal doesn't need to be a dangle through the team like Brent Burns did the other night off the face-off.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't need to always be that. They can be dirty. And he's a player that goes to the net anyway, so good for him for not having to be hacked and slashed to score a goal.
And
So what
if every
is
goal is
Berkshire
pretty,
trying to say? Go ahead.
yeah, if every goal is pretty, how can you appreciate the pretty goals?
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So are we just not? Should we go on further and not count ugly goals? As you know, referees have looked over this replay and that goal was pretty ugly looking, so we're not going to count it. No goal, no goal because it wasn't pretty enough.
If
Come
Corey
on.
Perry plays
cares?
56 games for the Canadians this season and scores 56 ugly goals, who the frig is going to complain?
All right. So if Matthew scores an ugly goal, it doesn't count.
Well, yeah, it's just an ugly goal.
Did he get cross-checked from the back before he scored it?
He'll pretend he was.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he'll miss a game. My back.
Oh, my manicure.
My mustache. You hurt my mustache.
Oh God, that one hair fell off. I glued it there. I glued it there specifically for this. So essentially, but at the end of the day, like Matt said, it's a win, and that made for a very successful road trip for the Canadians. They went 4-0-2, came back with 10 points out of a possible 12, and before the season started, if someone said, "Hey, Canadians are doing a 6-game road trip to start the year, and they're going to come back with 10 points," who the hell would have been upset?
And the fact that both of the games that they only got a point out of, in my opinion, they should have won both games.
They could have.
And they just shot, I said it in the last show, they shot themselves in the foot both games. So
yeah, and we're gonna have a mailbag later in the show, and one of the questions asked covers why the Canadians shot themselves in the foot.
perfect.
It was also the first team in the NHL since 1960 to start their season on a 6-game road trip and come away with a point in every game, and that also was the Montreal.
Well, that must be why the Canadians made number one. Well, it might be the reason why the Canadians made number one in NBC's NHL Power Rankings, ahead of teams like Vegas, Tampa, Colorado, and Boston. Not bad.
They were also number 2 in Sportsnet's power rankings behind Vegas.
Oh, behind. Okay.
They were the Sportsnet had them number 2 behind Vegas, and NBC has them number 1. I think the NHL has them number 1 too. So,
yep. So it's pretty good road trip when the Canadians are actually getting positive press and placed on these power rankings, which are, let's be honest, completely subjective. It's just people making shit up.
Absolutely.
Based on the play that week.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
It doesn't make any difference. It's just fun to see, but just the fact that they're being mentioned as a decent hockey team for a change and getting on these power rankings in the top half, it's just a really nice change of pace.
Yeah. But you know what? They deserve to be there. They deserve to get the recognition. You look at this roster right now, and with the players that played on the team, there's 3 guys that haven't scored a goal in 6 games. So Byron, Janelle, and Kulak are the only guys that haven't scored a goal yet for the team. After 6 games, that's pretty impressive.
Every player has at least 1 point, including one game player, Corey Perry.
That's right. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know if we're getting into this now or whatever, but it's just such a well-balanced. There's no superstars on the team. There's no, besides Price, but there's no. They're leading the league in goals. I believe they're second or third in goals for average. They're averaging almost. Are they first?
They got 5 goals per game.
Okay, I thought. All right, so there you go. So 5 goals per game. They're first in that. They're first in goals scored with 29, and the closest team to them is Vancouver with 27. Everyone else has 22.
And Vancouver's played more games.
Right. So I mean, is this going to happen for the rest of the season? Let's hope so. But if we're realistic, no. Like, I'm not trying to be.
Well, that's
go ahead.
that's when things like overtime and shootouts are going to become vital, and that, in my opinion, is somewhere they really need to work,
Yeah.
especially overtime, because it seems that they give up a lot more chances than what they get themselves in overtime, and these are the points that are really going to become vital as the year goes on.
Because
I
overtime is counterintuitive. You don't like normally Julian plays a defensive system. He plays to protect, but in a 3-on-3 overtime, you don't have that option. You have to play to win.
Yeah, you got to
So
play to attack,
that's
100%.
something that Claude hasn't done really well in Montreal.
he kind of the Vancouver overtime. He kind of got away from the Deneau, Gallagher, Weber
Yeah.
starting them in overtime and went to, I believe it was Suzuki, Anderson, and Petrie. I think is who he started with. Um,
Which is a good. That's a good
which is
line
good,
for
yeah. And then Kotkaniemi to Foley and say Romanov. Why not? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think Deneau and Weber should be the last guys you put out in overtime.
Do you know what I would do with Deneau? Because Deneau he can skate,
Yeah.
win faceoffs. Put Deneau out as a third forward. You know he can defend. You know he's got an active stick. And Lekkonen's the same way. They're not defensemen per se, but they're going to be able to get back into the play, say faster than a Sherratt or a Weber.
It's a different look.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think any team's gone with three forwards, have they?
Toronto's done that a couple times.
Toronto's done it.
Well, I mean, look at the weapons they have. Why the hell wouldn't you?
Well, if you're going to have Riley out there, you might as well put another forward.
I think they have, and I think Edmonton has too.
Edmonton has as well.
Yeah.
Again, look at the forwards they got.
Yeah.
Well, with Yamamoto now, they got 3 top end forwards.
Yeah. But the only thing is, you start with 3 forwards, you can't get hemmed in your own zone, and you better make it count.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially if it's your 3 best guys.
What difference does it make? You already have the point. You're playing to win. If they score on it, they score on you. Like, what are you losing? You're losing the extra point, but playing defensive, what are you gaining playing a defensive system in overtime? You're not gaining.
You're going to end up in your zone anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as they got a guy who can win the face-off, get the face-off, have your 3 best players out there and go for it. Like, you know, what can you lose?
I mean, you got Carey Price in your net. Take the chance.
Yeah, why not? I mean, Price didn't play bad in the Toronto overtime. He made a couple big saves, and then Byron decided he was too tired to. I mean, Byron made a mistake.
They got a 3-on-1 and they scored on it. You can't fault anyone for that. Really.
And it's Toronto. Toronto got good scoring players. They're going to score in overtime.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Toronto and Edmonton are probably the 2 best teams for overtime. For scoring for players.
3-on-3 overtime.
Exactly.
Playoff overtime's
right?
a whole other story. That's normal hockey.
Yeah. So, yeah, it happens. Oh, well, get over it. Move on to the next game.
Yeah.
I just want to bring up, I think the biggest thing for Montreal right now is the fact that they average 4.83 goals a game, almost 5, but their shooting percentage is 4th in the league at 13.6. This is the big turnover from last year, because last year they were 2nd, I believe, in shots on goal. This year, so far, they're 1st at 35.5. But last year, their shooting percentage was like 23rd or 24th in the league. It was terrible. Yeah. The big difference is this year, it's one of the best shooting percentages in the league. And that's where I think the big improvement is on the team. You don't need all-star players if you have guys that can regularly shot on net and put one in. So, I mean, that's
last year's PDO was extremely low. It was bottom third of the league. And this year's PDO is in the top 5. Massive difference.
And 3 of their, if you're talking about XGF, because you know how much I love to talk about analytics, but their top 3 lines are, and we'll get into one of them later on in the mailbag. Their top 3 lines are I'm pointing and no one knows what I'm pointing at. Their top 3 lines are the top 7 in the league, and 2 of their lines are top 4. So for XGF,
which puts them number 1 in the league.
Correct. So That's how you win hockey games. That's how you win hockey games. And if anyone noticed, if you look on the far right of your screen, is the Montreal Canadiens at the top, right by Carolina. If you can't make it out,
Yeah, so that chart comes from Sean Tierney of
yeah.
Charting Hockey, and it's the expected goal rates for all the teams in the NHL up to their current games played, and the Canadians fall squarely in first in the good range, so good and fun. So that right there should tell you everything you need to know about their season in comparison so far to last year.
It's only 6 games, so let's not
Yeah,
think this is going to continue for the rest of the season.
it was a good road trip.
Correct.
So,
But it's a good indicator of how the team should play and probably should win more games than they lose going forward. So,
they can play.
yeah, I mean, their biggest, I think their biggest challenge is going to happen Thursday night, and I'll segue, I guess, into our next thing here. It's Calgary.
Yeah, so the Calgary Series, before we get into the deep winter of the Calgary Series, we're going to get into the winter for Manscaped. Hey, fellas.
Oh,
we're thick in the winter of a storm, and a storm's a brewing. It looks like 1 to 3 inches are in the forecast when you trim that hibernation bush that's taking place in your pants. Luckily, our partners at Manscaped specialize in products to make sure you're walking around town with beautiful snowballs. The Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer is the best hygiene tool for the modern man. Because of their ceramic blade and advanced skin-safe technology, your snags on your snowballs will be reduced. The trimmer is also waterproof, so you can trim in the shower or jacuzzi if you're a savage. Manscaped's Performance Package is the best buy of 2021. The Performance Package comes with the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag. Have you ever noticed how nasty nose and ear hair is? In fact, 75% of partners polled admitted that long nose hair is a major turnoff. Might as well use the best tools to do the job. This bundle also comes with the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner. The Crop Preserver is an anti-chafing ball deodorant that will make your balls smell nice and make you feel like your testes are walking in a winter wonderland. The Crop Reviver is a spray-on toner for your balls. It's made with soothing aloe and witch hazel extracts that will make your balls look up at you and say, thanks. Don't get cold feet this winter. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code unfiltered20 at manscaped.com. They have a ton of other amazing men's hygiene products on their website, from disposable mats for your pubes to foot deodorant. 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code unfiltered20. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code unfiltered20. Thanks, Manscaped, for making our winter wieners look so good.
3 inches.
3
So
inches.
Everyone knows. 3 inches. 3 inches.
So
I may or may not be wearing my Manscaped boxers underneath this onesie, by the way.
I had mine on yesterday. Nice and silky.
you guys wear underwear?
I do, yes. I actually can't sleep in my bed naked. I have to wear underwear.
Tina Stenso.
I can't. No, I just can't do it. I don't sleep with any other clothes either.
You just slide off
underwear.
the silk sheets, eh?
That's right. Yeah.
So moving on to the Calgary Series. So the Flames are about to come to Montreal and start a 2-game set with the Canadiens. Our preseason predictions, we all had Calgary right up there in the top 2 for the division. Calgary's been, they had a loss their last game. They're playing tonight, I believe, against Toronto.
I think so, yeah.
There might have been some controversy in the last game between Toronto and Calgary. Apparently, Matthew Tkachuk did something and everyone got upset. So it's basically a carbon copy, cut and paste of every single game he's ever played.
Or any game that somebody plays the Leafs. There has to be some sort of drama.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look on the replay, I think he need him in the head. So I mean, I think he did it. He said in his interview, "Oh, everyone's picking on me. I didn't do anything. I'm getting tired of people picking on me." Well, don't be a dick. Yeah.
He got knocked down. He didn't fall down on purpose, but his knee went up into the air and into the goalie's head.
Yeah.
It was a targeted flop.
It was an intentionally accidental fall.
Yeah. And then soon after getting hit in the head, Campbell was out with a leg injury. So
yeah, well, the head bone's connected to the knee bone, so
yeah,
somehow.
So that is a pretty big blow for Toronto, who are having problems with the waiver wires and their backups, and that's a lot of weight to put on Anderson.
Especially since they lost Dell to New Jersey when they tried to put him down to the taxi squad. Yeah. So that's
now they're stuck with Hutchinson,
who they re-signed after claiming he was terrible. Yeah.
After they let him go. But the thing is, he went to Colorado and he gave them a chance to win. Because he stepped up in the playoffs, right?
He did.
Obviously, Colorado, much better defensively too. So,
So for their sake, he's going to have to step up. But now, our concern is Calgary, and Calgary is they're a hell of a team, a strong defense. Their top six rivals anyone in the NHL's. I challenge anyone to tell me that there's one other top six that's clear cut better. Their goaltending is top notch. I mean, Markstrom he's coming off a season last year. He played lights out hockey, led the Canucks to through the playoffs. And he's playing well so far this year. And their forward group, they've got a deep forward group as well, and it has a Tkachuk. So they're nothing to sneeze at. This is going to be a tough test for the Canadians when Calgary comes to town.
Yeah. So for me on this, I would say that for Calgary, they would need to if I'm the Canadians, I'm targeting their defensemen, because their defensemen are more skill-based block shot type players. They're not like the heavy hitters or anything. You get in the forecheck, wear them out, you probably have a good chance to win the game. And it's gonna be kind of like the Edmonton series. They don't have obviously the McDavids or the Drystyles or anything like that. But if they can play a simple game like they did against them, pucks in deep, forecheck, use your speed, and just close out their skilled players, they'll come away with a win. I think the X factor for me is going to be Markstrom. How good is he going to be? I don't know if he's playing tonight against the Leafs. I'm not sure. But so far he's played all 4 games. He's got a 928 save. Has 2 wins, but a 928 save and 2 wins. It's definitely wasn't his fault that they lost.
No.
He's expected to play tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, a couple other little items for the series in Montreal for their home opener. It's Montreal's home opener. So Molson declared over the weekend on a Francophone channel, some show that I don't know, I hadn't heard of until this weekend. He's going to have a surprise for the anthem. Not sure what that is. Maybe it's Jeanette Renaud is going to sing it. I don't know.
Celine Dion. Celine.
Yeah. Hey, apparently it's a big surprise. So we're going to find out. But the one bad news portion, well, outside of the team itself, is that Yuppie will not be available for his first game in Montreal.
What the fuck?
Why? I demand answers.
This is a blow to the team.
This could be the winner. This could be the difference in the win or loss.
Because a giant orange mascot shaking his ass at the goalie could distract him.
Could.
Works for Philly.
You mean that crackhead that's dressed like Yuppie?
Yuppie. That's Yuppie's twin crackhead brother.
I was talking about Voracek, but whatever. It's all good.
Matt, I wasn't even going to answer that question because you're a dirtbag of a reporter. So
total dirtbag.
Voracek. Leave him alone. He gets picked on by the Philadelphia media. Leave him be. Poor guy.
Yeah,
I'm so tired of Bernie Sanders memes. I really am.
you're gonna love the next one. Treg is a goalie memes. We're doing it. We're doing it.
Me as a goalie?
Yeah.
All right. All right. I'm okay.
So anyway, back to Calgary. I don't know. This, like I mentioned, this is a tough test for Montreal. If they can pull off a split here, that would be a big push for the Canadians. I mean, 4 days off after the long trip, that helps. And they're going to be kind of pumped because it's the season opener in Montreal. Unfortunately, there are nobody in the stands. Could you imagine the kind of how raucous it would be in the Bell Center if the Canadians came back home after a road trip like that and this was their opener?
I think it'd be insane. I think it'd be insane. But for me, I'm looking at the players, and they're home now. They can see their families. They can be around their pets, etc. Be around their kids, etc. And it's I think it's gonna just kind of breathe new life into them. They can take a deep breath. They can be like, okay, we're home. Let's fucking keep the ball. Let's keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, they had a day off yesterday.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna see a rejuvenated team. I think the rest is going to be well received.
Yeah, in practice this morning, there were no changes in the lineup. All the lines were pretty much exactly what they were before. And we talked about it before. The Canadians right now are averaging about 5 goals a game and allowing about 3 goals a game. I see a bit of a regression to the mean where the number of goals per game is going to go down, but the number of goals allowed of game is also going to go down. They're going to focus a little bit more on defense. They're going to tighten that up. Special teams, of course, we're going to get into that during the mailbag. But yeah, I think as long as they keep, if they can't score, if they can stop some goals and keep that goal differential pretty much where it is now, that's a recipe for success. And in this 2-game set, the key is going to be how do we shut down that top Calgary line?
Well, Julian said today in his presser that he's comfortable putting any line up against the top line with his team right now. He was asked about Evans in the fourth line, and he said, well, the fourth line, if you want to call it that, is his exact words. He said, I'm confident putting anyone up against the other team's top line right now. The key right now for Montreal is no forward has played more than 16 minutes a game. And that just shows you how well balanced the lines are and how well balanced the team is and how well rested the lines are. And I think that's contributing to the success that they're having this early. Especially with the condensed games that is going to be going on all season. Now, Calgary, I don't know how well their bottom 6 is, if it compares to Montreal's bottom 6. But if
pretty strong.
If you look at their point differential for players, it's pretty much all top 2 lines scoring. So I know we're going to get into the special teams later, but you can see the power play is starting to kind of not be as good as it was the first couple games, but the PK unit's getting better. I think the PK unit was always good. They had a bad game against Vancouver, and because we only played 6 games, it kind of this early in the season, if you go 0 for 5 in the power play, you drop like a rock. But
they also didn't have any practice playing 5-on-5 either, right? So
yeah,
it was just all like, you look at the Edmonton series, like how many penalties did they take against them? I think it was like 7
10,
or something.
10 in the 2 games.
Yeah.
There's 10 and they killed them all. But you go into Vancouver and they scored 3 of 6 the first game. I'm not sure what it's 1 of 5, I think the second
Something
game.
like that,
and I don't think they scored any in the third game. But I mean, when you can go 0 for 10 one series, but if you go 4 for 11 the next, you're and it's just because you have only played 6 games. Like there's no It's like seeing a goals against average of a goalie after 2 or 3 games. It's going to be way high or way low, and then it's going to even out as the
Yeah.
season goes on.
And
So
going back to your point on the use of their bottom six versus their top six, I found a graphic here from Scotian Canadian, our friend Matt Bedard. He got it off of Habs Reddit, and it shows the gap between the number 1 forward and the number 12 forward in the time on ice utilization. Toronto leads the league in the gap. Their top player plays 20 minutes more than their 12th forward. Montreal is at the bottom end of that, in this division, that is, where their top forward plays only 5 minutes and 41 seconds more than their bottom forward. That demonstrates that, yeah, he's rolling the lines. And the only real difference here would be special teams, really.
yes,
When you think about the ice time for special teams. Now, Calgary sits third in the division, and they use their top forward about 13 and a half minutes more than their bottom forward. So they're relying on their top six. They're clearly relying on that top six to do most of the play.
is that ice time 5-on-5 or all situations?
All situations.
Okay.
So they're putting a lot of their eggs in one basket. I don't think their bottom six is that bad, but they're not putting a lot of reliance on their bottom six. They're riding their horses. So can Montreal find a way to take advantage of that? I think so. I think that's going to be the key for the entire season, with the Canadians rolling those 4 lines. I mean, Evans has looked pretty good, to the point where some people are actually calling him a Danault replacement. And to that I say, stop saying that. He is not. He's a very good 4th liner right now. Let's not put anything more on him, and let's just leave him be. Who knows? Maybe he does become one, but if he doesn't, at least we got an NHL player out of a 7th round pick who's providing quality hockey on the penalty kill and 5-on-5 and eating up solid minutes.
He was one of our biggest questions when the season started, if he was going to be ready.
Exactly.
And so far he's answered the bell. He's definitely performed.
So far, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you wrote an article in the Hockey Writers about how center depth could be our not that it was a bad thing, but right now could be the Achilles heel of this Canadians team, going with 3 relatively young centers.
Yeah, the experience factor and the depth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all knew Suzuki was going to come out and be a gangbuster like he is. There was a question on Kotkaniemi. I think Kotkaniemi is probably one of the better centers on this team right now. 2-way center. He's winning more draws than any other. I think he leads the team in face-off percentage. It's probably Danault. I'd have to look it up, but I know his face-off percentage has gotten a hell of a lot better than what it was.
47.5.
Starts the season.
47.5 right now.
Yeah, he started the season.
Danault?
He couldn't win.
Danault's 52.1 and
okay.
Kotkaniemi's 47.5.
Well, considering the first game, Kotkaniemi was 11%. So let's.
Yeah, he's getting better.
Yeah.
Suzuki's, Suzuki, but Jake Evans has shown he can kill penalties. He can skate. He can, he can do everything he's asked to do on the ice without hesitation. Is there going to be bumps on the road? Of course, there's going to be bumps on the road. You have 3 young players, just like Alexander Romanov. There's going to be bumps on the road for him. There's been very little so far, but there's still going to be bumps in the road. And I mean, it's a testament to, I'm going to have to say, coaching. It's a testament to Julian's coaching and the coaching staff he has in that system, working with these young guys. And it's a testament to Joel Bouchard, who got these guys game ready, except Romanov. Kotkaniemi and Evans went through Bouchard before they came to Julian, and they're game ready. Like the stint Kotkaniemi had in the AHL, I think did the same as, dare I say it, how Mete improved his game when he gets sent down and came back up. So, I mean, not that Mete improved his game good enough to stay on the team, but, it's do it. So I think that's the advantage Montreal has over every other team in the Canadian division that I've seen so far, is the fact that they can rely on all 4 lines in all situations.
Yeah, Bergevin is really proven all the doubters wrong too.
So far, yeah.
so far. The additions he's made have made an impact. Everyone at least has made an impact at some point. A lot of people said Edmonston was going to be the next Alsner, and he's been fine defensively. And as we open the show with, he's he's looking good in the eyes of his teammates as well.
It's almost like he knows what it takes to win.
Yeah.
That Stanley Cup ring might have made a difference.
Well, I mean, you gotta think too. Edmondson's not the greatest defenseman. He's not, but he's
No
a
one's
defenseman.
expecting to be either.
No,
No. But
he's
I
making
mean,
simple plays. That's all he needs to do.
he's making simple plays. He's blocking shots. He leads the team in block shots with 13.
Playing physical.
He leads the team in hits with 18. He leads the team in plus minus, although I'm not, or second in the team in plus minus. I'm not a big fan. He has a goal and an assist. I mean, empty net goal, but
He
still,
leads the team in empty net goals.
he's on his way to the Max Pacioretty Award for the season. I just don't see what all the hate is on Edmondson right now. Does he make mistakes? Does he pinch when he shouldn't? Does he do whatever? Yes, but he hasn't done anything that really costs the Canadians anything, really.
Yeah.
Yes, he's not.
You're freezing up. You're freezing up. And that face is brought to you by Sourpuss, the leaders in really bad liquor. Totally frozen.
Oh yeah, he's done.
Yeah. So for now, we'll just move on. The face. For those who are listening to the show and not watching on YouTube, go to the YouTube channel. It is hilarious. Oh, and he's gone. He'll come back. All right. So we're going to move on to, I don't know. Well, I guess we can do the questions. We're going to do a mailbag. Before we do that, though, Matt, do you have any other thoughts on the Calgary series coming up?
As I said, I think it's going to come down to goaltending. I think if Carey Price can play the way that we know that he can and have a bounce back of, he struggled in one of his last starts, and we all know that he's a terrific goalie. He's got a better defense in front of him. He's got strong forwards in front of him. He's got guys that are playing they're playing for him, and I think it's going to be a goaltending matchup. To be honest, I think this is going to be their toughest test yet.
Yeah, I can see him coming in and playing that first game and showing a little bit more of what we expect from Carey Price. Jake Allen's probably going to play the second game of that series. So we're going to see more and more from Price as we go. And
I'm kind of wondering.
back.
I'm kind of wondering if they might play Allen in the first game and then give the Saturday game to
Tough to say.
It's tough to say, but you'd give him a full week off.
Sure, but I think he'd want the home opener.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I think Price plays both games. Personally.
Well, they do have a back-to-back coming up against Vancouver, don't they? The next week. So we'll see Allen at least once in there.
Allen's going to get a couple of games in the next 5, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
The first and the second they play next back-to-back. So
yeah, they do.
Okay.
Allen's getting one of those for sure.
Yeah.
So now that Treg's back, we can move on to the mailbag. We put out there that we wanted some questions from our listeners, and our friends stepped up. I think Matt's promise of wearing a onesie on screen was enough to get them to send in some questions. So the first one comes from Terry Seguin, CBC, and he asks, I'd love to hear you guys discuss refs and a Montreal bias. Does a bias exist, or is it just in the minds of Habs fans? Keep up their great work, guys. So my take on that is that here, I'll lay it out. So the Canadians have taken 42 minor penalties in the 6 games they've played so far. That's an average of about 7 per game, and they lead the NHL, and not just by a little bit, by a lot with that 7 per game uh, average. They've had 26 power plays so far, which is an average of 4 per game, which sits about 29th in calls for. So you're at the top for the most calls, and you're at the bottom for calls for. So there's a massive gap there. One thing to remember in these numbers, keep in mind with these penalties, 11 of those 42, so a full quarter, 25% of all these penalties go to Suzuki and Evans. Those are two young players. One's a rookie, one's in his second year, playing in a top line role for the first time steadily. So he's learning the ropes. So yeah, I can see more penalties being called on them because they're adjusting to how they're supposed to play in their roles, getting adjusted to the speed of the game. So I can see that happening. So all of that said, do I think the officiating is biased? No. Has there been some terribly officiated games by these refs during the season, early in the year? Yeah, absolutely. There have been some horrible non-calls throughout this series, the last series against the Canucks, that you can point to and say, "Oh my God, there's got to be some kind of bias." But keep in mind, there was no preseason games for the referees either, so they're still shaking the rust out. And clearly, some referees are better than others. So, do I see a Montreal bias? No. Do I see really bad referees? Yeah. Not every referee is as good as another. It's just like players. Some are stars, some are trash. What do you guys think? Who's up? Who wants to go first?
I'll take it. So I'd say there's no bias either. It's interesting stat. We talked about points and goals and everything for the Canadians. There's actually only 2 players that haven't taken a penalty this year, and that's Petrie and Byron are the only 2 players that haven't taken a penalty so far this year. And 6 games in, that's kind of a crazy stat. But yeah, for me, it's no bias. One of the games that they played, you had a rookie official with a veteran official, and the veteran called everything. The rookie just kind of sat back, and the veteran was just like, "Yep, that's a call. Yep, that's a call. Yep, that's a call." And I noticed that a lot of the calls that were made that we're at home watching, and we're like, "That is absolute horseshit." A lot of it is the official calling it from an angle that he actually can't see the play, and it's the arm just goes up really quick, and they just give that other player the benefit of the doubt that either they had the ice or they had the position or whatever you want to call it. And you're right, there's been some horrible calls, but it's been an around the league thing. I'm a huge hockey fan, just like you guys are. I haven't just watched the Canadian division, and you see some games where somebody just gets trucked over or gets tripped up or something, and you're just like, here comes the arm, because you're thinking, I'm watching a Canadians game. And it's like, where the can we get these refs for our games? Like, they'd be so much fun to watch. And I think the players will love it too, because as I said a couple times in the last couple days, is it'd be nice to see the Canadians play 5-on-5. They've got a really good team when they do it.
Greg, what about you?
I don't think there's a bias at all. I don't think there's a bias at all. I think there's a huge inconsistency in the reffing in the NHL, and I agree with Matt. It's all over. A game I like to come to is the Washington. Who are they playing? Chara. Anyway, Chara went after this guy.
Oh yeah, that was
laid him down.
Him and Curtis Lazar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Curtis Lazar.
Yeah, Buffalo.
And he was just pummeling, and the ref was standing right there. No call, no call, no call, no call. I don't mind refs that don't call penalties as long as it's consistent. If you're not going to call something, make sure it's for both sides and make it consistent. If you're going to have playoff style reffing, meaning they're put their whistle away unless it's a blatant penalty, then do that, but do it for both teams.
Yeah.
Do I think? I think Montreal takes a lot of stupid penalties. They have. I don't think they've had a game yet where they didn't throw the puck over the glass.
I'm pretty sure. That in the last game.
I thought Suzuki did.
Nope.
in the last game. Anyway, uh, but they have at least 3 in their first 6 games of over the glass. Uh, Last year it was too many men on the ice. So far they haven't had any of those. But you know, you look at the 7 penalties in the Edmonton game. All 7 penalties were callable penalties. They weren't, you know, as we could say sometimes soft penalties. Now you do get some soft penalties. Is it biased to Montreal? I'm going to say no. I don't think any ref goes into a hockey game, picks a team, and says, I'm going to go for this team and not that team. That's just, they're professionals. They made it to the NHL for a reason.
Sometimes it does seem that way, and you can use like
It does.
I use scouting the refs, and now we know a little bit more. Like we know who the refs are within each division. Before it wasn't that. Before it wasn't that way. It was like, oh, we might have Wes McCauley tonight, or we might have Chris Leith tonight, or we might have this guy or that guy. And scouting the refs does do a very good job of showing the expected penalties to be called and the team's records and all that kind of stuff. And there is every now and then you'll see a matchup, and it'll say like 20-21 record against for Montreal, and it's like 0-6, and you're just like, well, fuck, right? So
That's Chris Lee.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, we don't have him this year.
No.
Thankfully, he's Washington's problem.
He froze again. Oh my God, the faces Treg makes when he freezes. It's hilarious.
Wonder if that's looks like his O face.
So, so you guys mentioned the Chera play where he's sitting on top of Lazar and just pummeling him.
Yeah.
And there was no call, but yet Suzuki gets a small one-handed tap on a guy's hand.
Oh, may as well.
You'll get 2 minutes.
Yeah, I may as well just amputate that arm too.
Yeah, exactly. So that the consistency part, that's what kills me.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. So, oh, he's gone. All right. We'll just move on to the next question. The next one comes from Italian Habs Mike, and Mike asks us a 2-parter. Do you agree that Drouin, Suzuki, and Anderson have been the best line so far? And the second one is, what has been the difference in Drouin's game the last couple of years? I feel Drouin is playing with confidence and he isn't overthinking the puck. So is the Drouin line the number 1 line? And what do you think of Drouin's play? Treg, you're back, so we'll let you go first.
Read the question again. I just got back. So is this the one about Drouin's Suzuki Anderson line?
Yeah.
I think they are the best line right now for the Habs offensively. They're good 2-way. Don't get me. I think Drouin's having an excellent 2-way season for Drouin. He's back checking. He's going into corner. He's doing all the things that we want him to do.
Don't tell all Habs. Whew.
I'm talking about realistic hockey, people. So, you just threw me off with that. I mean,
he's playing extremely well 2-way for him.
He's playing for him, and don't expect a whole shitload of that from him because that's not his style. That's not his hockey. I mean, he's a offensive-minded person. I don't understand why there's still hate for Drouin because he's been doing this since last year. It just happened he had a major injury that split him up from that. That put that. I think if he had a full year, people would think differently of him. Anderson is the perfect fit for that line, especially for Drouin, because he gives space for Drouin to play his game. Drouin doesn't have to go in the corners or into the front of the net because he has Anderson that can do that for him. Suzuki can do his job as a 2-way center with a high offense and Drouin. And I think that's why that line's working so well, because it's perfectly put together. You have your power forward, you have your skilled winger, and you have your skilled 2-way center. And statistically, they're the second best XGF line in the NHL right now.
Not bad.
No.
Matt, what about you?
I would agree. I'd say that so far they've definitely been their most consistent line, and I feel that when they're on the ice, they They don't really get hemmed in their zone often. They do every now and then, but we've seen it a couple times. But usually when they're on the ice, they're the ones pushing the play. And as Drake said, the addition of Anderson to that line, he's definitely not just a slow plug. Like he can really keep up. He can move. He's got 21 shots so far already, and Duran's got 5. And we know that he's more of a playmaker than a shooter. But the thing is, I think that that part of his game is going to develop this season. Having a guy like Anderson on the line, so he's not, as he said, not having to go in the corners and do the dirty work and everything. He can just be the guy that can either dish the puck or shoot it. And the defenders and the offensive players are going to be worried about Anderson coming in on a forecheck or Suzuki dangling around him, which we've seen a couple times so far this season.
Yeah. Uh, I got to agree with you guys. I think Suzuki's line is probably the best line so far for the Canadians. For all the reasons you've mentioned, they're generating offense at an exquisite rate. They keep this up, be one of the top lines in the NHL in no time. Anderson is a very speedy player. He's very swift. He's smart too. He knows where to go and how to get himself open. And Drouin can thread a pass. They don't have to worry about anything defensively because Suzuki is there on the offense and he knows how to get back on defense and break up plays. I've even seen Drouin break up some plays defensively to figure out how to launch the transition game, which because of his speed, Anderson is perfect for. As for Drouin, I think Italian Habs Mike nailed it. It's a confidence level. He is playing confidently, and when he does, he's more consistent. He's not overthinking. Drouin is the kind of guy that when things start to go bad, he makes a mistake, then another one piles on, and he starts to dwell on those mistakes. Oh, I can't believe I did that. I can't, and it drags him down. But so far, even though he's made a couple of errors, glaring ones in some cases, he hasn't let it drag him down because his line mates are able to drag him forward. He's able to focus on what they're doing well. And I think that is pulling him along and making him a little bit more consistent because he's not overthinking everything. So that's my thought there. We'll move on to the next one.
Yep.
All right. So Beth from Happy Hour, Ivar Witt, she asks, do you think the Habs would still be successful if they were playing the exact same way, but in a normal league setting against all 30 other teams? Trey?
Yes. Yes.
Matt?
I would think so because they can match up. They can match up, like Julian said. They can play. They can play their brand of hockey, or they can match up against somebody else's, and we've seen it so far. They can play the you score, I score. They can play the shutdown. They can play physical if they need to. Yeah, I think they'd be fine.
Trey?
It's their depth. I think that's again a key. Like they can. Matt hit the nail on the head. They can change their game to play against anyone they want. They don't have to rely on one line to get all their points. They don't have to rely on these. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to have an elite player on the Montreal Canadiens. I would love to have a line like Matthews and Marner on the Canadiens. Don't get me wrong. Like I tend to shit on the Leafs, but it's not because I think their players are trash. But we don't have that, and the way I think it's better for the team because in the way they're structuring their game is they don't have to rely on just one or two people or one or two lines. They can rely on anyone, and they can change the way their style of game. And we said this before on previous shows. They're going to match lineups depending on the team that they're playing. So
Yeah.
And that's the convenience of the way Bergeron put the team together. I mean, this team was so put together that Ryan Sposer of the Hockey Writers is actually writing positive articles about the Montreal Canadiens. So if that's the case.
Ryan, if you're kidnapped, blink twice.
Yes, please. Please.
Yeah, so I do think the Canadians would be doing as well in a 31 team league situation as opposed to the North Division situation, because the North Division is filled with really good hockey teams. I know Ottawa was at the bottom of the pack, but they've made improvements and they're not that bad of a club. Um, so, and then you look at Winnipeg with the trade they just made for Pierre-Luc Dubois, and their center depth competes with anyone's in the league, with Scheifele and Dubois and Stastny and Lowry as a fourth liner. That's a hell of a lineup on at center. So I do think that the Canadians would be doing about as well. Um, and I think, Treg, you nailed it. It's the depth, being able to roll the four lines. Julian is a coach that just loves rolling his lines, trusting all four of his lines, and then kind of saving his guys. And this is how he does it, by spreading out the ice time over a full season, even a shortened one. When you're, like I mentioned with that graphic that Matt Bedard shared, when you're relying on your top 3-4 guys to play half a game every time, that'll wear on you. Whereas opposed, the Canadians are playing the guys 15 to 18 minutes each, averaging out, based on penalty kill and power play. By playoff time, they're much more rested. They've got more left in the tank. And we saw that in Julian coach teams in the past, where he's had a lot of success. So the Bruins teams of 2010, 11, 12, 13, won a cup, made a final in those 4 years with that kind of team. So I don't see why they wouldn't have that kind of success. So there you go. That's my thought.
They have a few more challenges than what they have in the, because you can find a weakness on any team in the Canadian division, and this may sound homerish, except Montreal. What's the?
Oh, not again. Freezing up again, man.
Literally just as he started to say something too.
Take the hint. The universe is telling you something.
Yeah.
Look at the face on him. For those not watching on YouTube, you're missing out on a show.
Well, let's just like as he's frozen up. Let's just
the weakness in Montreal right now.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he. Well.
Oh no, he's frozen again.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Damn you. Ah.
Here I am. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with my internet. I have no idea. So
because you're in Le Passage.
Probably. I've never had this. This is the first time I've had this issue, and
that's what they all say.
We
don't have a sponsor for that yet, so maybe you can go find one.
I don't get enough opportunity to find out if I have an issue in that position. So, but anyway.
Manscaped at least makes you look good.
That's right.
Right.
1 to 3 extra
basically
inches.
All I was saying was, other teams you can pick out a glaring issue with the team, like Winnipeg defense. Toronto, it's depth. Sorry, Toronto fans, you don't have any depth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe Calgary. Calgary might be a hard one to pick out a weakness. Vancouver, it's defense again. They have no defense again. So, but Montreal and Calgary are probably the only two teams you can look at and go, there's not a glaring weakness. Of course, there's weaknesses, but there's nothing that's glaring. So,
yeah. So the next question we have is from Hockey Last. I'm going to try and get through these pretty quick here. We've been on the show for a while. So this one here is from Hockey Last 72. And she asks, is there a team that you would like to see the Habs play this season outside of the North Division that would be particularly interesting or a challenging matchup for Montreal's carefully crafted team? Treg, before you freeze up, what about you?
That's a good question. I'm going to go with Tampa, just because of their Stanley Cup Finals, and I think they have I still think right now they have the best team on paper out there. So that's why I go with Tampa.
Matt?
So for me, it's not really the whole question of who would be the most difficult or anything like that, but there are two teams that I'd like to see them play. One being Columbus, as I'd like to see Domi play his former team. And the other one would be the Rangers. I would have liked to see Lafreniere play a game in Montreal, and just to have that for his career.
Okay. Yeah, fair. For me, it's I'd like to see them play against Philadelphia. So it'd be a rematch of the playoff that they had lost in 6 games, and it would give you a good gauge of, because Philadelphia hasn't changed much of anything. They've got pretty much the exact same lineup, same coach, same system, everything. So it would be a good gauge to compare where they were and where they are. Um, because like I said, Philadelphia is pretty much they're a deep team with no major superstar. I mean, Giroux is no longer a superstar. Voracek, he's not quite a superstar. Sorry, Chucky, don't rat me out on Twitter. Don't kill me. Still love you here in Halifax, brother. Um, so yeah, it'd be a really good test for the Habs, and it'd be a good way to compare where they were and where they are. So that's where I'd like to go. And our final question is from Leon Kimitsis. I hope I pronounced that right, Leon. If Danault doesn't sign with the Habs, do you see them putting that money towards signing Tatar? And who do you see taking his place? Evans, Paling, or a free agent? Treg, we'll start with you again.
I think they're going to try to sign Tatar anyway. Uh, I think they have 15.5 million in money. Uh, they do have RFAs to sign, like Kakiyemi and Evans. I think has to sign as an RFA. I don't
No,
think
he's got one
Kakiyemi
more year.
does him anyway. I don't think Kakiyemi is going to be too expensive. Um, I personally don't think Danault's coming back. I think Montreal made their offer. Danault said no, and we all know how Marc Bergevin is. If that's if the offer that's out there is what the offer that he made, I don't see Bergevin budging from it. So unless Danault says yes later on down the road, I just don't see him coming back. Who's he going to replace by? Probably Evans. I think Evans is playing well enough now to move up to the third line. Kotkaniemi is playing well enough to move to the second line. And yeah, sure, Paling can. I want to see Paling and Laval under Bouchard for this year. I'm hoping he goes down from the taxi squad before I say I could see them just signing a low rental Nate Thompson type player to play on the fourth line if Paling's not ready to step in.
Yeah. Matt, what about you?
Um, I agree that I think that they're trying to bring Tatar back as well, and I think it's going to be at a discounted price. It's going to be something maybe at least he's making 4.8 right now. I think it could be something more or less. I would say somewhere around 4.25, kind of like what Toffoli's making right now. I think the Toffoli deal is a fantastic deal, especially so far for the Canadians. Um, and Danault's a player that I really want to see more out of. He's only got 2 shots so far this year, and he's kind of been kind of really hasn't been an X factor in any of the games that he's played so far. And I kind of agree. He's a UFA. He's already apparently turned down a lengthy contract with the Canadians. It was a 6-year deal worth $5 million apiece. If he thinks he can get more money elsewhere, then go give her. Is you're not worth that much more. And would it be nice to still have him around and keep him there? Because he is a very good defensive center, of course. And would the team be worse off without him right now? Yeah, I think they would. Um, in the system, I believe Evans would be the logical choice, obviously, to move up. And I don't think, honestly, I don't think Paling's ready for the NHL right now. So I wouldn't even put him in that position or even put him in a fourth line position because he needs some time under Bouchard to find his game, and hopefully he does. You don't want to throw away another first round pick. And we know that he's got potential. We know that he can. He's a bigger body. Is he going to be a top 6 guy? Probably not. But does he have an NHL? Does he have Does he have what it takes to be an NHL player? Absolutely, but not yet. And I think that Danault might move on, so that might leave a gap, whether it's a free agent or someone within the system to fill that hole. Who knows?
Okay. For me, I don't know. Danault's a tough. It's tough to say. it's very possible that he does not return. According to La Poche Bleue, it's a francophone podcast hosted by Max Lapierre and Guillaume Latendresse. They came out with something just recently where they mentioned that the Deneau clan was asking for 5.5 to 5.7 over 6 years. So that's basically a difference of about $500,000 from what the Canadians were offering per season. Now, how big of a difference is 5.5 to 5? Well, I mean, I think Matt, you mentioned the flat cap and the financial difficulties that teams are in. I think the Canadians need to leverage that. If they can get him at 5 or under, then sure, keep him. But if he refuses to sign a 6-year deal, making that kind of money, then, I mean, as good as he is, he's probably not going to get that money anywhere else. And will he be happy with the role that he's going to be given over the next few years, as Suzuki is clearly becoming the number one? Kotkaniemi is going to probably outstrip him in the next year or two. So is he going to be happy in those last 4 years of his deal, where he's basically relegated to a third line role or a matchup role? I don't know. So maybe that's why he's kind of holding out. So let's just imagine he doesn't come back. Because I still think it's 50-50 right now. And if he doesn't come back, it's going to be after he's played an entire season and they let him walk away. I honestly think that, because they'll use him as an own rental. If he doesn't come back, yeah, I can see Evans being pushed up to the third. I don't think that's ideal. I don't think Evans is ready for that. We'll see what happens throughout the year. As for Poehling, I agree with Treg. He absolutely must have a full season under Bouchard in Laval. He was up and down all last year, and that kind of, I think that stunted his growth a little bit. And this is a contract year for him. So he's going to get a contract extension next year. He's going to, a 1 or 2 year bridge deal. It's not going to be much money at all. But a full year under Bouchard, playing in Laval, in the AHL's Canadian division as well, with rumors of Stockton moving up into Canada, because there's talk of the Flames AHL affiliate moving to Calgary so that they have their affiliate in the country. They don't have to go through the quarantine and all that in case of injuries. So that would add a 5th team to the Canadian division. I think that would be, that'd be pretty solid for an AHL team. You're not playing 4 teams 17 times. You're playing 5 teams, 12 times. So, but a full year under Bouchard, I think, would give Poehling a pretty good development. He might even become a third liner after that. So the battle would be between those two. They'd be both signed super cheap. So yeah, I can see the money being used to keep Tatar. If Tatar is willing to sign a 4-year deal, because you'll note, I think, Treg, you mentioned this in a previous show, pretty much everyone's contracts are coming up around the 34-year mark. They get to 34 and the contract's done. So it seems that Bergevin is trying to avoid having those 35 and over contracts, or anyone into the 35s, other than Price and Weber. Petrie now. So he's trying not to get those. He limits them. So I can see that being an offer. But we'll see. We will see.
Just to go back to what you said about the contract, as a team, do you want to be paying your third centers $5.5 to $6 million? That's another thing to look at too.
No, it's not very good for your cap, right? And there's still issues. So, does the flat cap regress at the end of the 2 years? We don't know yet.
So, whole other conversation, a whole other show you could have on that.
Yeah. And that does it for our mailbag. I want to thank everybody who sent in their questions. I think we covered most of the ones that were sent our way. There's a few that we couldn't do, time restraints. I apologize. Keep the questions coming. We want to interact with you on social media. Please keep it coming. check out Habs Unfiltered on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe and comment. You can, I mean, you go to YouTube, you can actually look at the wonder that is Matt and his onesie. Right? I mean, come on.
It's true.
So I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank you for all your questions. And remember, if you were talking about it, so are we.